Hey, what's up? In this episode of MPTV, we're at Basileo's Pizza up in Minnesota, and we're going to talk to Tom and Connie, the owners who have been here 2 years, about taking over this heritage brand and talk about some of the things they've done to really stand out. For example, honoring the heritage of the brand. Great timeline, Basil and Leo, who started the restaurant. We're also going to talk about why they're only open for dinner time and also some of the unique marketing they've done to get out in the community as well as online to make a difference. I'm going to dig into some pizza. I'll see you inside. Hey, it's Matt. We're back with another MPTV. This time we're up north in Minnesota. We're at Faribault, Minnesota at Basileo's with Tom and Connie. How are you?
Good, yourself?
I'm loving it up here. A little wet and cold for me. It's the summer. I thought it'd be a little warmer, but when we travel for MPTV, my goal is to have conversations with restaurateurs to talk about MP, not just the Matt Plapp in the logo, but making profit, because it's elusive in the restaurant business, especially 2020. But you guys have fared really good. So I guess before we dig into some questions, I guess tell the audience who you are and about the restaurant.
All right, well, I'm Tom. Bought the restaurant here about 2 years ago, actually in August, 2 years. And we kind of jumped into it, not really knowing a good plan, but we put together what we needed. And we survived through COVID, we survived through construction. So any battle that comes our way, I think we'll be just fine.
And I'm Connie, and I guess the way that I put it is Tom bought a restaurant, so he bought me a job.
and looking at the place, you both have put your stamp on it, because it's amazing. It looks great, the feel, the hominess of it, the cleanliness, just the little touches everywhere.
Yep. You got to pay attention to the details, especially in the restaurant world.
So I think what's unique about the conversation today is that we're coming out of or on the tail end of COVID, and there's going to be a lot of restaurants that don't reopen. And there's going to be a lot of people given the opportunity to buy a restaurant. And you bought this from the bank. So I guess talk about that process, because I'm sure there were some unknowns and some things you learned.
Definitely unknowns. The place had closed down. It was closed up about 8 months by the time we finally opened it back up. And you're coming into something that prior ownership, they've done things wrong or haven't kept the quality up, and usually a restaurant won't go out of business unless you fail to take care of it. But we kind of come into it going, well, we're in our 50s and figured we'd give it a shot, take a leap of faith on it and invest our time into it and our money, and we're here all the time working it 6 days a week, usually 5 to 6. So you have to put your time in to be able to make sure that it runs the way you want it to run and is efficient and profitable. So we just dived right in.
That's definitely one of our philosophies. We need to be here. We need it to run the way we want it to run, and nobody else has that same vested interest in it as we do. Get our staff trained to only know one way, the way that we want it run. And that did take some time. At the beginning, we did a lot of turnover. We did hire back some of the original staff that was here, and the only remaining 2 years later that stayed with us is 2 waitresses and 1 delivery driver. The entire kitchen staff was a turnover. Okay. They just couldn't handle the changes, the strictness that we brought to the kitchen, from being just teenagers being able to run free, do what they want to run a kitchen, to the standards that Tom holds back in the kitchen.
So what was probably the biggest surprise? Because I know you said you bought it, you got the keys, you could come in. I mean, they literally left it. What were some of the, I know I've had friends of mine look at restaurants and they walk in the kitchen, they're like, oh my goodness, or the dining room. Like, what were some of the big things that caught you by surprise, but you knew you had to tackle when you came in? I know you mentioned with the hood in there.
Yep. The biggest thing was, having to clean everything up. You don't know the condition of the equipment. It was a turnkey business that I bought. All the equipment was here. So we had to kind of come through, clean it up, survey it, see if it works properly. We had to calibrate all the ovens and everything. So we spent a lot of time just trying to figure out the value and the quality of what we had here. And there were some things that caught us by surprises. Some ovens that were basically red tagged, not even usable because the burners were completely shot.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was the biggest thing. The cleaning was probably the second biggest because we literally took down every ceiling tile, every piece of equipment. I mean, we spent probably a solid 4 months just cleaning. And that was every night, weekends.
Every piece of, every plate, every silverware, every thing went through the dishwasher to be, cleaned, reorganized. There were spots where, like in the office, that you couldn't even open the door all the way. You couldn't even get into it. It was stacked to the ceiling with boxes of stuff. Dig through, figure out what do we need, fill the dumpsters, and just go from there.
What was the timeline from when you took possession to when you opened the doors for business?
About 4.5 months. We got the keys and everything. We had agreed with the bank on the value, and we got them about early April.
Okay.
So then we spent 4 months getting it all cleaned up, organized, get through the licensing, get, Department of Health through here, get things figured out, what they had been in violations from before, what we needed to fix. So we went into it asking the right questions, getting hold of the right people to say, we want to be able to open up on this date. What do we need to do?
Because there's probably an inclination, especially as we come out of 2020, 2021, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs, but there's also that inclination that they're going to get the business on April 1st. You know what, like let's take a couple weeks off and let's get it open, hurry up. Like we had Andrea Spigian was one of my guests back in early on in MPTV. I think she was the 3rd or 4th episode, and she has a coffee shop and she had bought a second one and was going to take the second one, close it for a week, make a couple of changes, open back up. It's not even open now, and that's been 6 months. She said she got in there within a week and realized they could not operate to the standard she expected based on what the prior owners had did to the place, and she gutted it, and it was a project. I think she's due to open any day now, but that's probably, I mean, did you in your head say a certain timeline that we've got to be open by this time?
No, we figured it'd be late fall,
Okay.
Late summer, early fall was kind of the timeline we had. And as things started coming together, then we were picking a date, and we decided on August 13th of 18, and we wanted to be open that day. It was a Monday. Biggest thing is this restaurant had never been open on Mondays for about 15 years.
Okay.
So we made it a point to open on a Monday and emphasize that we're 7 days a week now. And hours changed. It went from being open for lunch and supper, and we just opened for supper only. So just a lot of it is,
Okay.
the changes and getting everybody used to what we're going to be able to do.
So I want to come back to the hours in a minute because that's a cool change. A lot of restaurants don't have some of them don't have the guts to do it, I think, because they're scared to be open that little, not be open all the time. But I want to real quick go into like the touches you put, because I know Connie, you had your hand in a lot of what's in here, and the artwork, the mural on the wall over here, the touches of the history of the brand. Was that something that was here before, or is that everything you guys brought to it?
There were mixed pieces of art throughout. You might have a picture of a boat in one room and wine bottles in another. So there was no flow to it. I would not say that I'm a artsy type person, but I could definitely tell that it needed that, and I wanted a theme look. So I really wanted to bring that Italian feel to it. So we found the artist to do the big mural for us, and that started the concept. And then I just took the artwork that was here, picked up some more along the line, and started laying it out to what goes together, and made some other changes of just little things like, so we stood in this back corner over here, which a doorway, and looked in and went, what does a customer see when they walk through the door? What is their visual? And at that time, there was one little hole in the wall over here that had been covered, and this wall was like just a white plain wall. The doorways were completely open into the kitchen. So what I saw standing back there with my daughter, who has a good visual eye, is you saw the dirty dishes and you saw the mop sink. That's what your visual line coming in the front door saw. So it's like we need to close that off, but still make this more so we can get through with food and stuff. So just little changes like that. Pinterest was my friend, and went on and looked at pizzerias, ideas, and I saw something with a brick wall at one point, and it went, I wonder if they make anything that's simple to do. We weren't in a position to do bricks. So we went to Menards and there we found paneling that looks like, you know, the bricks, and we just started working with that. There was a gentleman that I had met at a fair, and he did metal work, and I contacted him, and he was able to cut letters for us and get things on that sort. So it's kind of all flowed together like that.
What I liked is it's cohesive. It's like I felt it when we came in, like I saw the brick, I saw this, the brick on the going into the next room caught my attention, and then just the different touches. And I love that you said during the shutdown you started doing some stuff with the history of the brand.
Yeah, so right from the very beginning, I knew I wanted to bring the history of Basileo's back, because Basileo's is literally the first pizzeria in the town of Faribault here.
Okay.
So the clientele we have a lot of customers who have been coming since the 1960s when it opened. We have a customer that was here on opening night. We have a lot of customers who tell me their stories that they proposed to their wife here. This is where they went on their first date. This is, a lot of stories that the customers were telling me. So there was one customer in particular that I connected with, and she offered to start helping me look. And so she went to the library, and I had a range of when this restaurant had opened, but nobody was able to tell us, not the History Center, nobody had any information. So this customer went to the library and she searched through the archives and she found the information for the opening dates. And that got us rolling with pieces. And then working with the original owner's son, we were able to get more pieces of history and just started developing it. And so, we were shut down for 75 days, I think is what we were down when restaurants in Minnesota were not able to operate in the restaurant side. But we still had our pickup and delivery going. We decided to start creating our history wall, and we put in all our pieces, and it's still a work in progress. We got open and got busy again, so now it kind of took a little bit of a setback, and just it's usable, people can see it. It's not done.
Yeah, well, it looks great though. I think that's a missing touch from a lot of businesses. Some businesses don't have that history, but I saw a restaurant recently that doesn't have that history, but their city does. And so they went back and did the history of the type of food in that city, and had really cool touches of this restaurant from 60 years ago, this one from 40. But I think that it adds a different touch to it, because in this day and age, there's so many businesses that are stamped out of a corporate and put out there. This is a unique opportunity to really showcase who y'all are.
Yep. 60 years of history, we might as well keep it going.
Yep. So talking about that, what was that like taking over a brand? Because people had preconceived notions of what Basileo's was, and they had been eating here, like you said. Me as a kid, there was in Northern Kentucky and Erlanger, where I'm from, there was Pasquale's. I ate at Pasquale's all the time. And I actually ate there the other night with some friends. It's got a different name now, Salvador's, but it was identical. And it's how I remembered it as a kid. So, I mean, what was that like?
Well, so we were actually the fourth owners of the company. So the original owners, Basil and Leo, when they opened it back in 1960, they were kind of like us, we're here all the time, but they were very persistent on this has to be done the exact same way. The recipes are the recipes, you stick to them. And what we've learned through our customer feedback is over the years of different ownerships, this got changed a little bit, that got changed a little bit. So we actually got our hands on the original handwritten recipes from Basil, and we sat down with Basil's son, John, and he actually let me photocopy or take pictures of the handwritten recipes, and that's what I go by. I mean, you have to go with what works. I know back in 1960, they built this company, it's strong, and we get a lot of customers that come in and say, it tastes like it did back when Basil had it. And that's what our goal was, get it to a consistent, good quality of pizza that people can come in and say, yep, I remember that, and you guys are right there.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, using the consistent product, consistent and quality. It's not always the cheapest product. Tom does the ordering, but, buying our spices from a company that specializes in spices so that we're getting a higher quality spice that comes through in your flavors.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely don't cut corners. That's the biggest thing. Find a good product, quality product, and stay with it. We had a couple issues that we had to work through with our cheese. Our cheese manufacturer got bought up, closed down. So then we were on the search of what's going to be our next, what are we going to replace it with, and we sampled quite a bit of stuff, and we preferred and went with a higher end pizza cheese, just because the taste is better, the quality is consistent, and it costs a little bit more money, but the product is where it needs to be.
So going back to what you mentioned earlier when you opened up, I know you talked about when you presented to the bank when you were going to buy it that you're going to be open for dinner, 4 p.m. in the afternoons, and then the weekends 4 to 11.
Yep.
That's a decision a lot of restaurants don't make. And I've got a friend of mine who's from the restaurant business, and he has one restaurant that's mainly a breakfast and then one that was only lunch. And he talked about, for him, the reason he did it was his past restaurant experience. When you're open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week, I mean, that's a shift change. It's different employees. It's more managers. It's impossible for the owner to have a life and or be at the restaurant all the time.
Correct.
What led to that decision for you? Was it some of those things?
It was quite a bit of that. My history in the restaurant business was working at a pizzeria that was only open in the evenings. So that was kind of instilled in me early on. And when I went to the bank to tell him that we're going to be opening at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and closing at 10, he just kind of looked at me like, how do you figure your business plan is going to make it? I'm like, well, I know it's going to make it because it's what I've learned and worked through and stuff, and put together a business plan that shows him you have your availability of when you're open, you have your good product, you have your consistency to it, people will come. Rather than being open for lunch and dinner, like I said, with 2 shifts, kitchen shift, your utilities are higher, your maintenance on your equipment's higher, your staffing, we wanted to be able to run the business and not let the business run us. So we set it forward with 6 hours a day. That's when we're open.
And how's it worked?
It's worked out very well. I mean, we get here usually about 2:30 in the afternoon, start answering the phone at 3:45, and once 4 o'clock hits, it's usually 3-4 hours of straight 4 or 5 people making pizzas, and it works.
Well, we also, when we came in, the original point of sale system was still in place. It hadn't disconnected yet. They must have still had a lease on it long enough. And so we were able to pull a report that literally only a couple days later was no longer available, maybe because we did make a move within the computer and they saw that that happened. But we were able to pull a report that gave us day by day, hour by hour sales. And that showed us that there really wasn't money being made during lunch hour. It was a break even, if even that. By the time you paid staff and you did all your stuff, some points there was profit, but the majority it just wasn't. And so for us, looking at those numbers was a given as well. And we did do a little lunch during the shutdown. When it wasn't dining in, but we were offering our pickup and delivery. And it was very strong for a couple days while it was the new thing in town, but it quickly subsided back down again to not enough to sustain. And it showed us again that we made the right decision.
Yep.
Okay, break time. Restaurateurs, it's Matt. And if you're watching MPTV, you're obviously interested in improving your business. What if I told you could finally take the hope and pray out of your marketing plan and spend money and see results? You see, most marketing starts with the same exact tactic. You gain the attention of somebody, but that's where the majority of it stops. What we do with the ROI engine is help you gain amazing attention, which drives gigantic engagement. That engagement leads to customers to tell us who they are, meaning they opt into your email, text, and birthday program, and then we drive them to buy something. We've got a lot of great programs that can help you, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. If you're interested, it's easy. Check out ROIexperts.net. You can schedule an appointment, and we'll hop on a call with you. Worst case scenario, you learn how to market your restaurant like you've never heard of before. Back to the action. So going back to when we first met, because I like dealing, part of the reason we've taken my company on this journey is I like dealing with people to see the impact that's made. Because a lot of times, there's some companies I've dealt with in the past with marketing that they're so big that seeing your touch doesn't really make a difference. And when I met you at the Pizza Expo, I believe it was in Vegas, right?
Correct.
And I remember, if I remember correctly, you guys both walked up and you even told me that he didn't like marketing, he didn't like spending money, he was gonna get out of here. And he like skirted off to another part of the show and we had a conversation. And I wanna just kind of talk about that because I know from what I've seen with small businesses, especially in your situation, spending $1 is a big move. That a lot of times there's a lot of options out there to spend money. And by the way, thank you for working with us for, I guess, going on probably a year and a half now. But that was a big decision. And I guess talk about that because there's a lot of restaurants out there that they don't buy into that you have to spend money to make money. And there are a lot of them, I always say they're starving their restaurant because they're not inviting enough people, telling their story to enough people.
Well, I think what happened was, prior to opening, I was handling all of our Facebook. Doing what I knew I could do, my sister helping me with, pushing some ads through, but really, we're rookies, and we're just hitting this local market of, the people that were that liked our page. And so you had introduced a concept, but at that point we, weren't quite ready to jump forward. And we had another marketing company that we were working with that helped us set up our website and get us going there. But looking at it, she wasn't going to be able to do anything more with the Facebook side of stuff than what I was already doing, so we didn't really go that route. I did, after the show, I met with another marketing company online. My sister was there for it, and I'll be honest, they were very, very pushy. They wanted us to sign papers then and there, send money, and I'm like, I can't. It's me. I have to, it has to go through Tom. I have to, go. And we talked more about it, and then we set up that next interview with you where we did another conference and where we were able to get Tom, to see the numbers and how things were gonna go. And he's like, well, tell you what, we'll give it a try and we'll see what happens. And it was like literally a week into it, he started to see the changes. And that's where I'm gonna let you pick up.
It's like the flip of a switch. It was September 1st is when we signed on with you. In the middle of September, we had a small town Heritage Days parade is what they call it. And we ran some banners and things on the truck. And from that weekend forward, it's been just a steady incline. Our customer base keeps growing. I do believe, you have to spend money to make money. We want to operate a restaurant. We're not into marketing. I'm not a plumber, so I hire a plumber. I'm not an electrician, I hire an electrician. I'm not a marketer, we hire a marketer. And your guys' performance has been through the roof. And I'm glad that Connie was able to talk to you there and get things set up. So, and we are ready to take that next step to the birthday tier, one that Doug went over with us. So we're ready to, as I told Doug, with the money back guarantee you guys are putting in, I'll put my money where your mouth is, and we'll see where we go.
So, along those lines, yesterday we were at your house. Thank you for the invite. Thanks for hosting us. We went by for Labor Day and met some of your customers. And that was one of the first times I've interacted like that with a customer, because I don't talk to a lot of our customers. And it was cool because they were really in tune with how it worked. What has been the feedback that you've seen? Because you've mentioned that a lot of customers, it's something they haven't seen before.
Right. So, I guess, I try to either myself or my waitress will always do the hands-on with redeeming through the program. Occasionally I'll get somebody who asks questions about how this is going to work or whatever, but I'm like, it's very simple. Just make sure you have your phone with you, and we'll walk you through the steps. I guess I don't know what else to say. It's such an easy program that everybody is just, they're like, wow, that's all there is to it. Like, yep, you're done. You just saved $6.95.
There you go. And from your guys' standpoint, you've got a different look at it with some people. You also look at your rewarding top customers. I think a lot of times people take for granted their best customers. I mean, I always
Correct.
say in the restaurant business, there's 3 types of customers. Your frequent customers, your lost customers, and new customers. And you want to find new customers at the same time. You don't want to continue to lose customers.
Correct.
And when a lot of people have this tendency like, oh, they're already a loyal customer. Well, they're loyal for how long?
Correct.
Or at the same time, you want to reward loyalty.
Yep. Yeah, one of my good friends is actually our #1 guy.
That's
on
what
the
you were
marketing
saying.
Reports, and they're here 2-3 times a week. They're good friends of ours, and yeah, you treat your friends just like you do your customers because they're spending their money at your restaurant, and that's what you're after.
Yeah.
So, and we did have a couple people in town that are marketers that had approached us. We'd met them at one of the restaurants here in town. We're supporting other businesses, and they're like, they're like asking me, I'm into marketing, but I want to know who your guys' marketer is because this guy really knows what he's doing. The company is doing things that I haven't seen before, and I told him, I said, Matt Platt. That's all I can tell you. If you got any questions, talk to Connie. She'll fill you in on the details, but you guys perform very, very well for us.
That's cool. I'm glad to make an impact. I know you said it's interesting when you look at the performance. A lot of what anybody does in marketing, it's not always seen on paper. You can't always see the direct effects of it. I know you said since September of last year, every month has gotten a little better, and you guys have actually done well during COVID.
Correct.
So along the marketing lines, you were telling me a story yesterday, Connie, about right around when y'all opened, that there was a tornado came through. And I think a lot of businesses don't do enough in their community. A lot of them do a lot in their community, but a lot of them sometimes, in my opinion, don't do enough. There was a restaurant recently that closed down a mile from my house. Like my house is here, the high school's a mile, maybe 2 miles. This restaurant was here called Flip Daddy, and it was a good restaurant. They're actually completely out of business now, all their locations. But my kids go to the school, and I'm around that whole area. I never once saw them outside of their 4 walls. They weren't at band competitions, school events, football games. But I guess tell the story about when the tornado hit here and what you all did and how that impacted your business.
So we had a tornado that came through, and we had been open for about a month and a half, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And we were still in the process of who are we, strangers coming into the community, and learning our way around the community. And this tornado did not affect our business. We were able to stay open. It didn't do anything here, but literally a mile from us, it went through along a lake, and it just took every cabin, every house along there. There is not a house that was not affected. Roofs were off, trees are down, and the whole shebang. So we first contacted the emergency responders to see if there's anything we could do for them. Could we bring them food? They said they were all taken care of by the Red Cross coming in to take care of them. Our airport was also heavily damaged. And so we decided to just load up our truck in the back seat, filled it full of pizzas, talked to Fairway next door to us here from the grocery store about getting waters, and they donated some waters. And we took off with as much water and pizzas as we could hold, and we went down and looked for any place, especially these heavily hit places, and just pulled up and said, hey, we're from Basileo's, are you guys hungry? Here's some pizza. Handed off pizza and some water, and on to the next. And that has, we'll never know what truly, where did that financially, we didn't do it for the financial end of things. We did it because our community was hurting. Yep. And that's what we needed to do.
Yep. And you walk up to a brand new addition, nice houses. This is people's hard-earned money they invested, and you're looking at it and the roof is completely torn off, and the wife answers the door. Tears just kind of come down her face because like somebody come out of their way to make sure I've got a hot meal or their husband's out in the backyard picking up the pieces. Yeah. It's just something, you pay it forward.
Yeah. And you mentioned there was actually a lady that when you went to give it a pizza, it was like, oh my gosh, I just was wondering what we're going to do for food. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is the same one he was referring to, where she was like, there were 2 small children, and she had no electricity. Everything in the refrigerator is no good. The stove doesn't work, and the car is smashed, you know, like with the roof coming down on top of it, and she doesn't know how she's going to even get out to go feed them. Everybody's real busy taking care of all their problems, and so pulling up and just handing off. I mean, we were there for literally 45 seconds. Here you go. Enjoy. I'm sorry, you know, you've got this. There's nothing I can do about that, but here you are.
You know, a lot of times it's, you know, it's grassroots marketing, but it's more than that. It's, you know, like you said, giving back to the community, making the right decision, the right choices, doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Because like you said, I think you even mentioned like you didn't have Basileos on your vehicle, nothing. You were just there like we want to help out. And I'm sure those people, whether you know it or not, have walked back in this restaurant hundreds of times.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they've said, hey, they were there when we needed it. Well, you know, it was one, it's good pizza too, great pizza. So we'll be back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. In the area that, you know, out by the lakes that got hit, that we went out there and you were swerving around all the debris and everything and just trying to get to where people are at. And there was the little high school youth club, basically, is what they are. They were out there helping people clean up the yards and everything too. And we just rolled up and dropped them off 6 pizzas. Here, feed your kids. And they kept on, you know, they were out there contributing, helping out as well. And it's like, give you something to eat and get you going again.
I love it.
Restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
So I always end the episodes with a question. I always ask, you know, and there's no prep for this one. It's if you're talking to somebody that owns and operates a restaurant or is thinking about owning and operating a restaurant, one piece of advice that you think they would, if you gave them, that would help them, you know, make an impact and be successful?
Biggest thing is be penny wise and dollar smart.
Okay.
Know what you're going to spend your money on. Make sure you're spending it properly, and you know, you have to understand what your long-term vision is, where you want to be. We're on a 20-year plan. When we bought the place, we knew in 20 years we want to be done and out of it. So each year, we just make sure we align ourselves with how we're spending our money and going towards the goal we're after.
For me, I think I work more the front end of things. I don't work the financial side. That's what Tom does. And I feel like you need to make a connection with your customers. I mean, I know my customers by name. I know what a lot of my customers are going to order. Do you want a menu today? Because I know they don't need a menu. They're going to order the same food over and over, and once in a while will surprise me with getting something different. We have a customer in particular that orders on the phone for delivery. Tom has actually never personally met the man. I have delivered to him once in an emergency time when we didn't have a driver to run for him. I know his phone number to put it into the system. I know the ending of his credit card. I know exactly what he's going to order. As soon as he's like, I'm like, is this for pickup or delivery? And answering that phone with, well, Joseph, how are you tonight? I'm making those connections. Customers appreciate connection to them.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You're right. You've got to watch what you spend money on because you have profits elusive in this business. Mm-hmm. And you've got to make sure you spend at the right places and understand what you're getting, but you can't shortchange customer service. That there's a restaurant that I really enjoy near my house. I won't say their name. They're a great restaurant. We go there weekly. There's not a person within the 4 walls that walks up and says, hey, Matt, hey, Christy, hey, Cole, hey, Paige. We get the same item every time. My wife has a real complicated order on her sandwich every time with the sauce they have. But to me, always kind of just makes me scratch my head because we're going to come back because I know the owner of the restaurant. He's got another location he manages. But it shows that the touch isn't in the 4 walls. And that makes a big difference because a lot of people probably would say, hey, I'm spending $60 a week here, and nobody has knows me.
Right.
You want to have that cheers feel, the Norm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one thing we didn't touch on, this opening that we put up on the wall here, I purposely made that to where I can come out, I can see the customers coming up to the counter because I see the kitchen ticket, I know the name, I know what they're ordering, and then I can put the face with the name. So when I see them out in the community, I know who they are, not just, oh, you're Mark Hoban. Oh, okay. So it's kind of
You're anchovy pepperoni now.
exactly, and just that connection, like Connie says, with customers. I don't get a chance to come out and talk to them all the time because I am busy in the kitchen, but I can still nod, wave at them, go hi to them as I see them, and I think it goes a long ways that people understand that, hey, the owners know we're here. They say hi. It's kind of that personal touch.
Well, cool. We appreciate your time. I'm glad we got to come up here and sit down with you and meet you again. It's been a while, but the business looks great, and can't wait to see the rest of Minnesota our next week.
Awesome.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Cool. Well, that's all we got. We'll see you on the next episode of MPTV.